Hey, what up everybody, this is Anime Junkie and today we're doing part 3 to what if Deku could use Haki. And now, let's get to the intro. Okay, so last time we left out, I just gave you guys a brief explanation how Deku is going to improve in this 5-year training. So let's get to the story. So it's been 2 years of Deku's training, and he's going for a 1-mile jog with his grandfather Ryu. Actually, not 1 mile, let's just say 10 kilometers. So 5 kilometers when they get there and 5 kilometers back. So after 3 kilometers, Deku's tired, so he stops next to a construction company. And he sees all the workers there and the quirks and stuff. And at this point, Deku's already mastered observation Haki. He's learned it, and now he's going through he's already has it on all the time. So that means he has sharp senses, so he can hear properly, he can smell better, he can see far distances clearly. So he sees these two brown-haired couples, and they're talking to this really rich looking person with suits on, and then they basically are talking about their story that their company is weak and they don't have the right quirk for the job. So, and they're also pleading for a little bit more time to finish their project. So he basically ignores this after listening for a while because he shouldn't listen to other people's conversations. But then he hears a girl saying float and release. So he goes behind and looks around the corner, and then he sees a little girl about the same age as him with brown hair, and she's using her quirk on the rubble that she's with. Deku's inspired by this because her quirk is basically zero gravity and stuff, so he analyzes her quirk and watches her, and Ryu basically lets him do this because that's good because he's analyzing people, so he'll get a habit of analyzing his opponent's quirks before he fights them. So whenever this happens, Ryu basically lets him do this and gives him his time. And then when the girl stops, she moves over to a heavy pipe and touches it and floats it up. Then a gust of wind goes and the pipe is above her. Deku, with his observation Haki on all the time, he senses that the pipe is gonna fall on her. So Deku starts running with his Haki, and he's faster because he has Haki throughout his legs, so his speed is faster. So he yells, "Watch out!" The girl looks at him and then looks up and realizes her mistake and starts screaming. And then Deku basically tackles her out of the way. The pipe basically falls and it creates a dust cloud around them. Ryu's not worried because he knows he has observation Haki and he knows everything, so he's fine. But then the girl's parents come around, and they're the same people that were talking to the businessman. And they're worried because their girl might get hurt, and then when the dust cloud basically clears out, they see Midoriya holding the girl, and then they start blushing. But then the girl feels like there's something in her mouth, and then she pukes all over Deku's shirt. So in the next scene, we basically see a shirtless Deku sitting on a bench, and Uraraka's parents, yes, Uraraka. And so Mr. Uraraka and Mrs. Uraraka are basically apologizing with Ochaco, and back there is basically Ryu cleaning out Deku's favorite All Might shirt with a hose. So after that, basically Mr. Uraraka and Mrs. Uraraka are basically saying, "How can we repay you because that was your favorite All Might shirt?" And Ochaco is basically blushing because she just vomited on this guy. So then when the shirt is clean, he basically puts it on, and Ryu introduces him. He's my grandson, and I'm training him because he's quirkless. He has a quirk, but I'm training him to be a good hero. So then Deku basically smiles at Ochaco and basically asks her, "What's your quirk?" And she basically tells him it's zero gravity. And then she basically tells him how her quirk works and stuff. So they're basically having a chat while Ryu is basically chatting with the parents. And they basically says, "How can we repay you? We don't have that much money, but we'll try to repay you." And he's like, "Why don't you come over to my house and have dinner?" It's like, "Oh, no, we have to repay you. I mean, this kindness, we don't deserve it." And then Ryu basically is surrounded by this dark aura, and he's like smiling, and it's like, "I said, why don't you come over for dinner?" So then basically the Urarakas basically look away and they're nervous, but then they're shaking their heads and they're like, "Okay, we'll be there." So Ryu basically tells Deku to get ready because we need to run back at full speed because we need to tell your grandmother and mom to get ready dinner. So Deku gets ready and basically tells Ochaco goodbye and see you at my house. So they wave and they basically go full speed, and everybody's surprised at the speed that they're going at. So they basically quickly run 3 miles in about like 1 hour. Not 1 hour, I mean in like 3 minutes. Oh, and 3 kilometers, not 3 miles. So after a while, Urarakas basically show up at their house and they try to dress up as best as they can with the clothes that they had. And then they also have a cheap sake bottle because that's the only thing that they could afford. But they're shocked to see this giant building and this giant dojo that the family owns. And then they think that they must be really rich. And then they hear a voice from this really slim lady with dark green hair, and it's like, oh, you must be the Urarakas. Hi, I'm Deku's mother. Come inside. So they basically nod and they go inside. So they basically walk through the hallway, and then they see Ryu and Deku training with some boxing and martial arts. Uraraka shouts to Deku and says hi, and Deku gets distracted, but he always has his observation haki on. So when Ryu goes to attack Deku, he dodges it. So after like 20 minutes, they get ready and they take a shower, and then they eat dinner. The Urarakas are basically amazed at the amount of food that they have and the good quality of meat that they have, like something A-grade meat. And the Urarakas are like, how can they afford this? Because the only food that they ever had is like cheap food and takeaways and microwave food. So they've never had a cooked family feast before. So they basically take a whole bunch of rice and a little bit of the actual gravy and curry that they're having. But then they basically said, have more curry, it's really good. And then they basically look at the family and says that, oh no, it's just too much. We won't be able to afford this. And they're like, oh, this is free. You can have as much as you want. And then basically Deku's grandma is surrounded by a dark aura too, and then she smiles and then says, this is free, it's healthy. Eat it. And then they basically look nervous and they shake their heads again and they start eating. And then the family feels really bad because when they see Uraraka's family tearing up while they're eating the good food, so they kind of feel bad for them. So after dinner, they basically sit outside in the porch and talking about embarrassing moments that their kids have done. So Ochaco and Deku are basically blushing the whole time. And then Ryu basically sits cross-legged in front of the two parents and crosses his arms and tells the kids to go inside. Their parents are gonna have some parental talk. So they basically go inside, and Deku basically takes her into a room, and then they're playing heroes with their action figures. So Ryu basically asks them that, do you have any financial problems? And what is your status in financial? So they basically frown and basically look at the family, and we don't really have anything to give you guys because we're in a really bad financial problem, and our quirks are not even good enough for our job, and we always get late assignments and we get less money every time. So we're in a really bad place. So then Ryu basically says, I know someone, I could give him a call. And he basically hires people for odd jobs, and he really desperately wants people. And he doesn't care what quirk you have, he just needs workers. And he says, this won't make you rich, but it will get you back on your financial debt and make you have at least money to actually help your child be a hero. Because they were also talking about how they had to give up Ochaco's dream of being a hero and going to UA because they didn't have enough money. But then they're still working hard to make her go to UA because they don't want to give up on her dream and stuff like that. So after a few convincing, they accept it and they become family friends. So every time they go to work, that's every single day. So Ochaco basically gets dropped off to Deku's house, and she basically hangs out there with Ryu and Deku. And then after a few years, Ochaco also starts training with Deku, and she ends up learning observation haki. And that's it. She doesn't have any talents for other haki. So for example, she doesn't have any talents for armament haki or conquerors. She only has observation haki, which basically suits her. So after 5 years, Deku and Uraraka are basically older. So we basically see two fighting figures in the forest, and then they're basically really toe-to-toe, but one ends up getting an upper hand and winning and pinning the other person down, which is basically Uraraka and Deku sparring. Then they basically hear a voice from an old man in the forest, and they say, you two have improved a lot since we first started training, especially you, Uraraka. And then they basically see Ryu. So after that, they meet up, and then Ryu basically tells Deku, this is your final task to use your Conqueror's Haki, because he's already learned the second part of armament haki with the metallic metal color. So he's already past that and he's fluent with it, but he hasn't turned it into the reddish black advanced armament Haki, even with his observation Haki. So now it's his Conqueror's Haki test. So for the last test, he's just facing down this angry giant elephant with a quirk, and he is supposed to use his Conqueror's Haki to tame the elephant. So the elephant starts charging at him, and Deku activates his Conqueror's Haki, and the elephant stops charging at it and he tames it. So the reason why he didn't knock it out, because that tells Ryu that he can actually control it, because if he doesn't know how to control it, the elephant would have just knocked out. But if he tamed it, that means that Deku actually learns how to control Conqueror's Haki. So that's it, everybody. I hope you liked this What If series, and make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for my future videos. Also, part 4 isn't gonna come out today, I'm sorry, but today I'm really busy. But this isn't the last video today, because we hit 3,000 this morning, for me. So I'm gonna be posting the question Q&A answer video today. So if you still haven't put in a question, go down to my community tab and ask any question that you want, and I'll answer all of them. So I'll only give you 1 hour after this video is uploaded to answer the questions or ask your question, and then when 1 hour basically passes, just assume that I've already recorded the video. And if you haven't until then, sorry, your question probably won't be up there, but just hope that somebody else asked it and you'll get the answer. So as always, Anime Junkie out.